people that are over 200 as an individual, 250 married. We're putting 355 grand on somebody's tax return. This gets picked up. And then the rate potentially changes based on how much income they have. What I'm trying to say here is this 57 grand here is too low. I don't know if everybody's written a check like that, but I have. I call that your pain number. You got to remember, Virginia wants a piece of the action too. So that's an additional 5.75 on that gain number. So I'm showing 78. I am almost can guarantee by the time it ripples through the tax return, it's going to be 90 grand. So there's the business decision clients are making. I'm going to sell this rental townhouse that I've been sitting on for a bunch of years. Do I want to fork over 90 grand, just be done with it, finished, or do I want to keep all that money and stay invested in more real estate? Okay, that's really what the fundamental decision is here. Bail out, pay your taxes, or keep investing in real estate. My clients, they don't want to pay taxes, so we do an exchange. We trade for something else. What can you trade into? What is like kind? You're going to hear that term, like kind exchange. It's real property for real property, as long as it's all held for business use or investment. When I say business use, it's typically rental, which is the buy and hold market. I'm in the rental business, or I'm holding it in my business. Like, for example, my office here that I'm sitting in was part of an exchange, and I run my business here, right? Or investment, which is usually land, okay? So I can trade from dirt into a rental beach house, into a hotel, warehouse, mix and match all I want anywhere in the country. So like kind, real estate for real estate, as long as you continue to hold it as business use or investment property. Okay, so it's a very broad definition. Timing. So the government only gives us a certain window of time to do an exchange. They give you 180 days from closing. Everything starts at settlement. From giving up ownership to owning the new is 180 days. The hard part of an exchange is you got to identify in the first 45 days. What the hell does that mean? That is a piece of paper between the client and I. They're giving me a list of properties that they want us to buy with their money. The term the government uses is unambiguous. So it's got to be very clear what the client wants us to buy with their money. There are 3 rules. One is the 3 property rule. They can give me a list of 3 of any value. You can put skyscrapers on there. I just need addresses. What are we buying? The second rule is called the 200% rule. If the list is 4 or more, it's limited to 2 times what was sold. I used an example of a sale of $500,000. That means $1 million could be on the list of properties. I see that when somebody wants to sell a large property, like an example of sell a $2 million warehouse, and then they want to buy several smaller dollar condos to make up that $2 million. So it depends on what their client strategy as to what type of identification list they use. The third rule is called the 95% rule, which is the catch-all. If the list is more than 3 and the value exceeds 2 times what was sold, you got to buy the whole list, 95% of it. So I rarely see that, okay? The hardest part of an exchange, no ifs, ands, or buts about it, is this 45-day identification step. The list cannot change after day 45. That's the hard part. So you're locked in to buying only from that list after the 45th day, all the way through day 180, okay? And this stuff is baked into the law. So it's not a, Bill feels like it sort of thing. This is law stuff, all right? Cool. All right. Let's do the math in terms of how much do I have to buy. So we talked about tax bill. We talked about timing. How much dollars do I have to buy to not pay tax? You guys remember my scenario, $500,000. To not pay taxes, this is a decent little slide. I got a $500,000 sale price. It's going to cost me 40 grand to sell, right? That's what it cost me to get out. That gives me this 460 number. To not pay tax, I got to go buy replacement property worth 460. So think of an exchange as continuing your investment. You're replacing that value and you're going to put all the cash back in. In my scenario, I got to pay off my mortgage. So I'm left with 370 of cash. I got to put that cash into the new property. So if I buy again at 460 and I put the 370 down, I got to come up with the rest of the money. Most people go get another mortgage. But if you think about this logically, the numbers are the same. It's the same investment. I gave up 460, have 370 of cash. I still have an investment worth 460 and there's 370 invested in it. Nothing has changed for me financially. I just keep going. It's a different address. So that's a simplistic logic. I've continued my investment. The numbers are the same on the buy side. Okay, cool. Let's talk about process and paperwork just for a minute. This is a normal sales and settlement process, and I'm adding my layer to it. So when we set up for an exchange, process-wise, I need to get my hands on a copy of that sale contract, right? That's what I'm after, is that relinquished property sale contract. You guys have done all the work. I need to pick up the details. I'm going to create an agreement with the client. That's what hires me. I got to be hired before closing. I cannot emphasize that enough. There's an assignment of contract. I'm using DocuSign like you guys are, so my part happens very, very quickly. As part of the regulation, I just notify everybody of an assignment. It's a simple notice. It's not rocket science. And I send settlement instructions to the closing. Hey, this is an exchange. Send me the money, so that the client doesn't get the money and they don't benefit from the sale. The clock starts. I deal with the clock with the client. Your job is go get that new replacement property contract. Just like normal, go get a contract. I get assigned in. I'm going to send a notice to everybody that I was assigned in, and I send settlement instructions to the closing attorney on the buy side. Here's how much cash I'm sending to closing. Client's bringing the rest of the money, and then we close the transaction. I'm not part of the deeding, so it's a normal, simple sale and settlement, and I've added a layer to it. The client reports everything to the IRS on this form 8824. Nothing I do goes to the government. Okay, cool. Another key component to this stuff is you got to be consistent tax-wise. So if Bill Horan sells and my social security number, it's got to be Bill on the buy side. Okay, so we got to be consistent. If Bill and Kathy, my wife, we both make money, we both have to replace our investment property. There are some exceptions in here, like single member LLCs and revocable trusts. Those are all okay, but we got to be consistent tax-wise. That's a key thing here, right? Cool. I'm going to spend just a minute here on what's called reverse exchanges, where we do it backwards, because I've been doing more and more of them. The normal sequence is sell and buy, and I think you guys have that piece, right? You got to make sure you put a middleman in there, but it's that part's straightforward. Couple of rules. You cannot exchange into something you already own. So you can't go buy the new one first, sell yours, and buy from yourself. You can't swap with yourself, okay? Because the sequence, remember, by law, is sell, give up the old one, and then later get the new one. And then improvements on the real estate you already own are not like kind. What am I talking about? Everybody wants to improve their new property. So once you close on it, the exchange part is over. We can't hold back some escrow funds and put them towards a kitchen that'll be put in the future. It doesn't work. Okay, so that's not what's called like kind. I'm buying a kitchen. We're not actually buying the real estate. So if you want to do it backwards, I'm putting it on here on purpose because we're seeing more and more of these. The law, like I said, is sell and buy. Well, what if you want to buy ahead of time? We introduce what's called an EAT, an exchange accommodation title holder, that will force a scenario that the client has sold and bought. Let me use an example here. There's the new one. I got competition to buy it. I haven't sold my old one yet. What do? I'm out of sequence. If I don't close on this new one, I'm going to lose it. We let an EAT, exchange accommodation title holder, buy the new one and hold it for me. So it's a temporary owner, a placeholder, straw man, whatever you want to call it. It'll sit there and hold title to the property, waiting for you to sell, and then you buy from the holding company. So it's a mechanism to, if you're out of sequence, selling and then buying, to get a hold of the new one, okay? Depending on what's going on with the client, we structure these different ways, depending on where money's coming from, all kinds of things. So there's different ways to structure these things. Well, there's something out there called an improvement exchange. Remember, I mentioned you can't use 1031 money to improve a property you already own. That doesn't work. So there is a mechanism to do it, but it's got to be feasible to do. Let me use an example. We sell at 460 and we find a beach house worth 400. Oh my God, that's a beautiful place to be, but it needs a pool. So if I sell something for 460 and I only buy 400, I'm going to expose 60 grand to taxes. So I didn't really want to do that. And my new beach house still needs a pool. So what am I going to do? So we'll let it eat, buy it first, and add the pool. So now it's worth 460 because it's a really nice 40 grand pool or 60 grand pool that I put in the backyard of this thing. And the trade is 460 for 460. Where am I going? We did an exchange for a dentist out of Reston. A developer came in and bought the entire condo complex up. We took the money from his sale. He bought a regular rental condo in Chantilly, and we used the rest of his money to buy his new dental suite in Herndon, and we did the build out. So we took all the money from his sale, he kept it all, and we bought 2 investment properties, and he got the build out done in his office suite. It was a great example of a reverse improvement exchange where we spent the money on new property. Right? Cool. I'm at 20 minutes. Does anybody have any questions? I'm moving very, very fast on this stuff. No questions?
To our guests, you should be able to unmute yourself, but for whatever reason you can't, go ahead and type any questions in the chat. We'll get that over to Bill.
Well, let me see if I can't see chat. Oh yeah, chat.
Bill, I have a question from
Sure.
A realtor who texted me a little earlier. What are the most common mistakes you see sellers make that might cause the 1031 exchange to fail or get delayed?
Yeah, it's usually not doing their homework on what they want to buy ahead of time. So, inventory is still running pretty tight. And because this thing has a clock ticking on it, you really better know what you want to try and buy before the 45th day. The clients that fail call me on Friday morning and they're closing Friday afternoon and they want to do an exchange and the clock starts at that moment in time. They only have 45 days to tell me what they want to buy. They got to give me a list, and that's way too fast. So you got to really start the process of understanding where you want to go ahead of time if you can, right? Also, it's okay to contract for a new property ahead of time. You don't have to wait for your closing on the one you're giving up to go under contract for the new one. This is not about contract dates, it's ownership dates. So the sooner you put contracts out to tie up a new property, the better. And I realize that's cheap advice on my end, easy to say and hard to do, but those are that's in this market, it really is important. I use the term don't dilly-dally because that's a technical term, because you got a big tax bill hanging over your head. If you got to figure out what you want to buy early.
How early in the process should the realtors bring in, or the customer who wants to do the exchange, the
Yeah.
qualified intermediary?
Yeah. Ideally, we have a conversation with the client just to cover these rules. I find that once clients understand, and it's with their particular situation, what is my dollars to sell, all that sort of stuff. Once they understand where the basic bumpers are, where the rules are, they're comfortable to go. I'm not going to do any paperwork until we actually have a contract to sell. You don't need to hire me until there's a contract to sell, because normally there's a 30, 45-day closing period. I just get hired in that window. I just got to be in place before closing, before settlement.
Bill, this might be a silly question, but does a customer always has to go through a 1031 intermediary? They can't do it on their own, correct?
So the only scenario where they could do it on a loan, if they were trading deeds, like me and my friend own 2 properties and we like each other's properties and we trade deeds just directly, 2 swapping deeds, then you don't need a middleman. We just rarely see that. But if you're selling to one party and buying from another, even if there's 2 minutes in between, you got to have a qualified intermediary in between. Cool.
Any other questions from our guests? You can, again, type it in the chat if you do.
I teach lots of classes. You know, I teach under NVAR and GCAR and DAR. So I have a bunch of these classes that if you wanted to, you know, sit in for a longer session where I go into a lot more detail, I'm happy to do that. You know, primarily what we do is we talk to clients through their scenarios because, like I said before, they just really want to know what the rules are and talk to a human being about it and answer their questions. And that's what we do. And that's what we focus on because everybody's scenario is a little different.
Bill, you might be going through this in your next slides, but I guess anything that those on the call should be aware of in regards to the recent tax changes with the big beautiful bill and how this affects
Yeah,
1031s.
no changes. So we're at status quo at the moment, and we don't see any threats on the horizon. We're always watching, you know, every election, there's something's going to change. So that's something we're very diligent about. Something in our background, we've been at this a long time. We're very plugged into the industry. I'm part of the lobbying team that goes up on Capitol Hill, and now my son is part of the business. That's part of what he does is do a good bit of lobbying up on Capitol. We have a business to protect, so we're up there on the hill yelling and screaming. Squeaky wheel gets the grease. Oh, I see a quick chat question. Can you do a partial reinvestment? Yes. So let me give you a simple example. We sell it 500 and we buy at 300. So we're not fully replacing the investment. That 200 grand is exposed to taxes. We got to make sure that we're not taking all of the gain out. So I used an example in my slides. There was 355 of gain. So if I change up this example, I sell at 5 and I buy at 300. That's 200 of the 355 of gain came out. So that's what's called a partial exchange. Some of it is taxable and some of it is deferred into the new property. But the first dollars that come out, in whatever fashion or form that is, are exposed to dollars. It is exposed to taxes, I mean, I'm sorry, right? But it happens all the time. But that's the kind of detail that I get into with clients. We got to drill down into the numbers as to what makes sense or not. Are there any more tax consequences? No, there's no other tax consequences other than that's your pain. Pay your taxes on what you took out in whatever fashion it looked like.
Hey, Bill, I do have a question.
Sure.
If a 1031 is left or is put in a trust and someone passes
Yep.
and the property is left to beneficiaries,
Yep.
how does that work? Does it remain a 1031 exchange? Do the beneficiaries, does that dissolve? They can do whatever they want with it?
Yeah, so when somebody passes away, whoever's running their estate is going to put a value on everything they own. So there's a fair market number that gets put on everything whoever passed away gave up. And then whoever inherits it gets that new basis. It's called a step up in basis. So if I use an example, I traded into a beach house. There's a lot of gain in it because I've owned it for 1 million years, but it's $1 million beach house. When I pass away, my son is going to put $1 million on the beach house as fair market value when I passed. And then he gets it and sells it for $1 million. My gain goes away. So you in our business, you swap till you drop because the gain goes away. I think the estate tax today is like $16 million per person. So it's a very high hurdle before the estate would owe taxes.
Okay, thank you.
But that's how you do it, is you let people inherit the property. So because your taxes go away, the gain goes away. I see a lot of clients that are gifting, you know, they want to put their kid on title for whatever reason. But that's gifting ownership to the kid, and that also gifts the profit to the kid. And so you don't I don't think you should do that, you know. Cool, I hit my 30 minutes. You guys were adamant. Don't go beyond 30 minutes.
Well, thank you, Bill. We want to make sure we're respectful of our partner's time. And that was super interesting. And if it's okay with you, I'd love to be able to share the slide deck with our
Yeah, please do.
guests.
And there's my
After the
contact
fact.
info on there as well.
Fantastic.
And Bill,
Well,
thank you
everybody.
so, yeah, thank you
Oh.
so much, Bill. I know
You're
that in
welcome.
past years when I've had any questions, Bill is very approachable. He now has his son in the business with him. So, you know, they're super educational and happy to answer questions. And all the deals that we've done with them over the years have gone very, very smoothly. So I highly recommend them and definitely keep their information.
Cool. Thank you. And we're local to you all. That's key too, right? We know this market.
Yes. Thank you.
Cool. Thank you all. Thanks for jumping on.
All right.
Thank
Thank you.
you.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Thanks, everybody.